I can see from our repository, the media file, that we have completed day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Yesterday, we discussed shared responsibility model, how to copy AMI, and also the placement group. These are the main 3 topics that we discussed yesterday. So now, slowly, we'll get into more like security group and EBS. Okay. So security group, there's the important thing. I think that before the EBS, I can discuss the security group. Okay, and then we'll jump into the EBS today. Okay? I think security group we have not discussed, correct?
No.
Now, since we have been talking about the EC2, VPC, but the security is crucial, correct, for any company. Their security officer, each and every company now, they have their own security team, like CISO, CISO, correct? Chief Information Security Officer or security. So they're very much concerned about their security posture. Whether it is running on AWS, whether it's not running AWS, that's a separate story. But security is everywhere. So in AWS, if you deploy EC2 server, EC2 instance, then naturally the thing comes to your mind like, what about the firewall? Correct?
Yeah.
In AWS, there are a lot of firewalls. Okay. So today we are going to discuss a default free firewall, but slowly we'll discuss some of the advanced level firewall, those not free, like WAF, network firewall, etc. etc. Today our topic is security group and NACL. Okay. If I ask the question, Abhay, what is the purpose of firewall?
To preventing others to access this server.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now if I have this EC2 and if I click instance, you can see my screen. I think the instance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now if I select any of the server, and here you could see there's an option called security. Correct? That's the security. So inside this security, if I just click the security options, click on that. There's a security group, correct? So if you remember that when we create the server, there's a security groups you have to create.
Yeah. That time it came.
That time, yes, we chose. But that security group, there are 2 options usually. If you just remember, if I just launch any instance, and let's say if I just launch any instance, and if I just scroll down here, there's an option called firewall security groups. Select existing security group, or you can create a fresh new security group. Correct? Those options are there. So you can create the security group right there, or you can create security group later point of time, no problem. Okay, or you can select your existing security group, like many times we do. Correct? These are all created security group by me for different class, different demo, different batches. Or I can create the security group and something. So we'll discuss more about the security group today. Okay, what exactly it is. So if I just bring my whiteboard here now, and let's start a story. Let us little storytelling. Let's assume that is my building, apartment. Is a building where people stay, and each at this particular building, there are different floors: first floor, second floors, third floors. Okay, let's say if I just draw a bit, what's going on? Hold on. The first floor, the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, something like that. Okay, so now at each and every floor, there are certain flats, flat owner they stay at each and every, let's say, floor. Only one flat, no problem. Now, all of the building owners, they have decided to depute one security guard at each and every floor. Something like this. Let's say this is a security guard. So this flat owner named Bob, then John, then Dan, then Ramesh. Okay. So now, if one of friends of Bob wanted to meet Bob, okay. So what happened that the friend Paul, let's say his name is Paul. Paul wants to meet Bob. So what Paul will do? Paul will take a elevator, lift all the way up, and the moment he get off the lift, then this security guard stopped Paul. He said, "Stop there. Who are you?" He said, "My name is Paul. I am the friend of Bob. मैं बॉब का दोस्त हूँ, मेरे से बॉब से मिलना है." Then this security guard say, "No, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to get into Bob, and I cannot allow you to meet Bob anyways, because in my register I don't see you or in any message from Bob that you are approved person, a trustworthy person." Then Paul said, "Okay, you may call Bob and take an approval." Then security guard will do exactly the same thing. Security guard will will call Bob. Bob says, of course, please let him in." Then security guard happily let Paul to meet Bob. And the moment, let's say, Bob and Paul had a fantastic lunch, and when Paul came out, then security guard will never stop Paul because he already knows Paul, right? So Paul took the lift, go all the down, and go out. So now if I replace the entire story by AWS language, so these are all different EC2. Okay. And these guys are security group. So now what is security group is all about? Security group is nothing but a firewall who protects EC2 from any requests, any port, any data, any protocol. So by default, if you launch an EC2 and if you don't define any rules in that security group, then security group will stop every single traffic. Very important point to take a note. If you create a security group and if you don't define any rules, then out of the box security group will drop all the traffic. Exactly happened for Paul, right? So now security group knows who Paul every time, 100 times, 1,000 times. If Bob will come and meet Bob, then security group knows, security guard knows that, okay, he's trustworthy person. So that is something very important, like security group is a stateful firewall. What is
But must have some passcode, no?
huh?
Then if must have some passcode, then it's good, like password or OTP.
नहीं नहीं वो तो फायरवॉल ओटीपी अलग चीज है, ओटीपी
Okay.
तो अलग चीज है, बट फायरवॉल का भी लॉजिक देखो कि कोई भी ट्रैफिक को
हाँ,
आपको स्लो पर स्टार्ट करना है, दिस आर कंप्लीट डिफरेंट थिंग, ओटीपी एंड
okay.
पास, ओके, दिस आर नॉट
Okay.
फायरवॉल, ओके, दोस आर ऑथेंटिकेशन mechanism, right?
Okay. Okay.
Right, let's say if you have developed a website and this website there's no password, but you open port 80 in the firewall, then people can access this particular website, and the same website if you have the authentications like OTP and password, anyways, you have to open the port and protocol, and password and authentication are completely separate thing. Okay? Don't get
Okay.
confused.
Okay.
At this stage, you understand? Yes or no?
Yes.
So now stateful firewall, what is stateful firewall? So stateful firewall means if you allow anything inbound, because this is the inbound traffic, right? From any traffic is coming through this security group, it's the inbound traffic. If you allow anybody inbound, then outbound by default always allow. The same thing happened for Paul. When the Paul met Bob, उसका साथ lunch हो गया, and that the time Paul returns, then security guard never stopped Paul because he already knows. So that is the main objective, or that is the, this is the stateful firewall nature. अगर आप कुछ inbound में allow कर दो, then outbound is already allowed. Okay.
Okay.
And security group, it is a firewall of EC2. So now many students, many customers, they ask, okay, if I have EC2, okay, and if I have the security group, can I have only one security group to only one EC2, or I can create a multiple security group to one EC2? The answer is you can create up to 5 security group to one single instance. How many?
Up to 5.
Yes. 5. So something like that you can create up to 5. And each and every security group you can add 50 or 60 rules. I think 60 rules. Okay. So 60 here, 60 here, 60 here, 60 here, 60 here. But from the performance perspective, if you add so many security group with so many rules, then the performance will always poor, always bad, because every time there's a lot of inspections, isn't it? So that's the golden rule. अगर जरूरत इतना rules जरूरत नहीं है, then मत attach करो इतना rules. Okay, so that is the golden rule in IT security world. If you need more than 60, then of course you can create another, but you really don't need to unnecessarily create multiple security group with multiple rules. Then your overall network congestions will start. There's a past, performance will be degraded. But I'm just sharing the idea, like, how many security groups can be attached. Now, another use case. Many customers, they say, okay, Devojit, I have got many applications. I mean, many servers, but the applications are same, not almost. The same applications are running across multiple EC2. It can be, right, as a scalability. But now, if you have the 500 or 50 or let's say 100, even 10, every time if you create separate security group, there's a that will become a very tedious job. Tedious job. Because Marlo, if you want to change some of the rules here, the same rules you have to change here, you have to change here, you have to change here, you have to add any rules, then again the same rules you have to add across all of the security groups, right? It is a very tedious or time killing process, isn't it? So what you can do, you can attach one security group to multiple instance as well. Okay. So
is there also bondage or limitation for adding this?
Yes. So now in one security group, anyways, you can only add 60 rules. Okay. So 60 rules you can add. But the thing is that the same rules will get applied across all of the servers. So now, let's say if you want to edit some of the rules, let's say another port 443 you add. So these rules will automatically get applied across all of the servers. If you delete this rule, automatically this rule will get applied across all of the servers. So मान लो आपका पास एक तीनों लैपटॉप है, तीनों लैपटॉप के लिए एक ही फायरवॉल है. So if you change something at the firewall at your home, then your smartphone, your laptop, your desktop, these particular rules will get applied across all of the devices at your home, isn't it?
Yes.
How? Because now they are part of the entire only one firewall, but all of the nodes are actually connected to the particular firewall. The same logic, you can create only one security group for your operational excellence because आपको भी time save करना चाहिए, right? You have to save your time, you have to do a better operational excellence. So alag-alag firewall for alag-alag servers, it will not be a smart approach away.
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
Let's see how to create the security group now. So let's say I have the particular server already, the firewall there, the security group there during the launch process, but I want to create another fresh new security group and see how to create. Okay, you see there's an option called security group on my left. Click on that. Okay, let me create a security group called batch 174. We'll delete it. So now this security group, you have to map with a VPC. Without VPC, nothing will work, right? So VPC के साथ ये security group map करना पड़ेगा. And now you see there's an option called inbound and outbound rules. Outbound, as I say, is a stateful firewall. Everything by default, all traffic is allowed. You see that? All traffic is allowed from everywhere. So you really don't need to bother about the outbound rules or outbound traffic. Only you need to bother about the inbound rules. Now you see, if I just go and create the security group, okay? If I just go and create the security group, just create, then what happened, like all of the traffics of that particular EC2 instance will get stopped because the inbound rules में तो है ही नहीं कुछ.
Yes.
So that is the first use case. If your customer says, okay, some of the traffic, it is not coming, my FTP nahi open ho raha hai, I cannot connect telnet, I cannot connect any applications, port 80, I cannot log in by RDP. The first thing, you have to check whether the proper rules are applied in the firewall or not. It's a very common problem in industry. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So अगर ऐसा कुछ situations आए, so your customer is saying that I cannot access certain port, certain protocol, then the first thing, you come to the security group and check whether the proper port and protocol is open or not. So I'm going to create the rules, add rules. As I said, add rules as like 60 rules you can create. I'm not going to create that much of rules. The first rule, let's say I would like to allow port 80 because port 80, it is needed for website. Correct. If I just go and search, there's a lot of type already there from AWS. You need to find it out. Where is HTTP? Let's say HTTP protocol TCP port 80. I have to allow from everywhere. So 0.0.0.0.0 means from everywhere. Anybody from the world, any corner from the earth, people can access HTTP over port 80, right? For the security group. So I'm just going to allow the rules. Similarly, I can add another rules. Let's say this time 443. Again, allowed from everyone. I can add another rules. Let's say RDP. from everywhere. So now there's a problem. Problem means from the best practice perspective, RDP must not allow from all the locations. Why? Any idea? If you open RDP from everywhere, then your CISO or the customer security officer, they are not happy. Why? Because if you open the RDP from everywhere, then there's a lot of hackers, lot of bad person. They usually take the RDP connections and they do a lot of poisoning, lot of bad things. Okay. So RDP always you have to restrict from certain locations. Always from certain locations. Yeah, आपका एग्जाम में आएगा नहीं. This is only for from the real experience, real use case perspective. So RDP you have to select from very specific region, very specific locations. Let's say you can specifically say, okay, only from my IP. That means if I choose my IP currently at my home office, this is exactly the router IP I have. So that only from my office, this particular RDP I can connect. Yes or no? Clear?
Yes.
Let's say आपका office बोला नहीं, you have to select multiple IPs away. Let's say you have got a different branch offices and your team are spread across work from home. You have got the office. So from different locations, people should access RDP. So now you just simply type, let's say one of the address is something like that. I'm just putting randomly. Let's say
Yes.
another IP is, let's say, your home IP is something like that. So as a karke, you can create the multiple locations from where the RDP can be allowed.
Or we can use through VPN. It is same, na?
VPN is same. So yes, VPN is much
Yeah.
more better options.
Yes.
Only from certain level. We'll get into there what is VPN, but yes, VPN is much more safer options to connect AWS. But at this stage, if you don't know VPN, but if you want to create a kind of firewall rules in a secure way, then that's how you can define the source. Okay.
Okay.
So now if I just what I can do now another use case. Let's say all traffic. Is it okay or no?
No, sir. Then what is the achiever if all the traffic goes through the?
I mean, it's a security risk, right?
Yes.
Right. So now you understand that you only need only those protocol and port that we need, not all the traffic, everything, right? If you need something, let's say a custom port, like your developer say, okay, my application will work in 7898 port from all locations, from certain locations, then you have to go by this. I mean, very specific rules. So this is the one approach. So now let me hold on. Let me go by this. And let's say first let me create this. Okay. So let me create this security group, batch 174. Now security group has been created. Now इसको तो attach करना पड़ेगा EC2 में, isn't it? So I
Yes.
have to attach this security group to my EC2. Process is very easy. All you can do, you can just copy the security group ID, go to your instance. Oh, Scroll down. Okay. Go to the C2 once again. Go to action. You see there's an option called security, change security group. So this security group already attached one of the security group. Now I want to attach my new security group, add security group, and then save. So now you can see multiple security group you can attach to a one EC2 instance. If I go to security group, okay, and there's a port pipeline already, but now if I just refresh, security groups, port 3, let me refresh. Add one area. Let me check once again. Twitter. Green. Yeah. So now you see there's a two security groups
Yeah.
are properly attached, and there's a mix and match. Now one from one security group, batch 174 say ये rules है. पिछले वाला जो security groups था from there's another rule. So that's how you can create multiple security groups. So one instance. Now if I add same security group to different EC2 instance, same process. If I just go my port pipeline demo server, same process. At save. So that is about the security group. मैं अभी आपको एक प्रोडक्शन यूज केस बता रहा हूँ इंटरेस्टिंग देखो. So now let's say you have got one EC2, you have got another EC2. Here application is hosted running, here database is running. There's another servers applications, and there's another database for that particular application. So ये हो गया पूरा, sorry, this is only for applications 1 for an example. So this is something app 2. Okay. So now the situation is this database is very, very important. Your customer or your security team, they have instructed you, hey, Abhay, this DB shouldn't take any traffic from any applications. So from these applications, if the request is coming, then okay. If apart from this application server, any traffic want to come to this DB, then that particular traffic request must be blocked. Correct? So now tell me what to do. कैसे हम लोग सिक्योरिटी ग्रुप से इसको ये पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्शन यूज केस को सेटिस्फाई करें. यू अंडरस्टैंड द प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट?
Yes, yes.
थिंग सो ऐसा ही आएगा, ऐसा नहीं तो nobody will ask whether you know EC2, whether you know security group. That is the real situation. People will ask during the interview. If you will crack this, then everything's fine. How can you do that? That's the questions. No? Okay. So now the situation is from this DB shouldn't allow any other applications, correct? So what I have to do that? I have to create the security group, okay, for this DB. let's say I have to create the security group for this DB called this. This is the security group. And in this security group inbound port, I say that, okay, anything is coming from this application server, it's allowed. Let's say all traffic, for an example, from this application server, it is allowed, except, anything comes from different application, it will get denied. तो कैसे ये आर्किटेक्चर को हम लोग ये करेंगे, इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे. So let me show you. I don't know, people are not joining. The fair seat, absolutely. She'll be good. But there's another gentleman called Sabuj. He's supposed to join today. I don't know. पीछे हो जाएगा ये लोग. So now what happened? I am going to create the security group once again. Quiz भी है, सब कुछ है, assignments भी है, कैसे करेंगे? And create a security group called App1 DBSG. For example, just give it a name so that you will understand. VPC वगैरह भी सही है और okay. So let's say this is my database security group. I'm going to add, okay, the inbound routes. And I'm saying, okay, maybe only certain ports from that application will allow. Let's say specific SMTP, or let's say port 80 or POP LDAP. I'm just doing a random order, okay, or any custom TCP IP custom port. But here, my source will be what? My application server IP, right? Because this DB will allow only traffic from where? Application server, isn't it? You understand the logic? So
Yes,
if I go to application server and take the IP of application server, private IP, the LAN IP, basically, that is one approach. Many customers, what they do, like, let's say these green my application, they can go and copy the private IP address, and then they can map this IP address. Definitely the subnet is needed. That's one of the approach. Or the best practice, what AWS says, that ये जो application server है, इसका भी एक security group तो है, right?
yes, yes.
So this security group you can map here. So that means if I create this firewall for databases, right? And so that the moment I will attach this particular security group to my database. So these traffic are only allowed from this specific security group, which is my application server security group. You understand the logic?
I understand, sir. But here, what we want only one server, na? Only one IP linking.
Only one IP तो कर रहा हूँ. तो अगर apart from that, अगर application 2 wants to connect to the database, then their request is dropped, because the security guard, you remember the security guard concept? ये
Yeah,
security
yeah,
guard open करके देखेगा, ये तो तीनों ही है मेरा पास, वो तो चार
yeah.
तो नहीं है, तो I will drop that particular second IP, no?
Okay, okay.
You remember?
Yeah, that's
If this is a security guard, and you'll open that, okay, this only one IP, only security group of the applications is allowed. Apart from that, any other security groups or IP I cannot see, so that they are disallowed. Yes or no?
yes.
So what I do, if I just create this particular security group, okay, name is DB, for example, and if I just go to instance, and let's say this is my database, for example, or this is my database, my code Python DB. So simply go to this server, change security group,
Security.
right? attach the security group that I have just created for that batch. No, database
App,
of,
app,
huh? Yeah,
app,
now.
app 1DB. Last
Oh,
one.
uh-huh.
Yeah, this one.
This one, no, yeah, one.
Yes.
Simply add, save. Then मेरा काम हो गया, because now this firewall has been attached to this particular server. Only only this application can communicate. अगर ये application connect करने की कोशिश करेगा, then they will get dropped, isn't it? For our case, this those so we have applied the same security group for Green and my code pipeline both, so that these two servers actually can connect this particular database, not this one, because I have not attached the security group to that applications. It's very, very important considerations. If you remember, say yes. If you don't remember, say no. Yes,
Yes.
fantastic. Your assignments will be there, no problem. So what I'll do, I will remove the security group from here, because that's some of the good, I mean, some of the servers I need for some of the applications. So I just want to drop today's security group. Nice. So we have learned security group. Take 5 minutes break. Okay, Abhay?
Okay.
Shall we take 5 minutes, and then we can discuss another type of firewall, NACL. Okay, are you back?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, security group we know now. But what is another production use case? Something like that. Let's say you joined a company and some of your team members come to you and say, "Hey, Abhay, we have observed there's a massive traffic, massive data, massive requests are coming from one IP. We suspect that that is the bad guy or some of the brute force attack is happening." So what is brute force attack? You know about? I mean, some of the brute force or denial, DDoS or DOS attack, distributions, denial of service
Mhm.
attack. Something you have heard about?
No.
Okay. Okay. So that means the hackers, what they do, they create a lot of bot. Okay. So this bot will create send a lot of traffic. Okay. Those are the fake traffic. So
Okay.
those traffic will continuously hit to your infrastructure. And if millions or billions of traffic requests are coming to your server, then what happens? Your server will die, correct? To take that much of load, so many requests are coming. So this is something called brute force attack, or sometimes another attack is called a DOS, denial of service attack. So it's a very common problem in industry these days. Okay, so and every company they should have thought about that. Okay, they are very much concerned about this. So in AWS, there are a lot of other solutions to protect this, but जो सस्ता टिकाऊ वाला solutions है, okay, something called NACL, NACL. What is that?
Yes. Yes.
NACL, Network Access Control List. Okay. So by this is another firewall. Somebody also called is a perimeter level firewall because it will block the entire subnet. Security group protects only EC2, correct?
Mm.
NACL will block at entire subnet, something like this. The same building. Now, all of the building owners, I mean the flat owners, they have appointed a big guy. He's a security guard also. But his job to protect entire premises, entire campus of the building. This security guard will only protect
Each,
individually,
each flat.
only instance. Now, if I just change by human name Bob, John, Dan. So the difference between this security guard and that security guard is the moment you create this security guard, he allows everything. Oh, मतलब मतलब ये security guard नया नया join किया है and this security guard still learning, okay, how to what is building all about. So it is something like it accepts, it pass through any traffic, it allows anybody, so that if Paul comes, he doesn't even ask who is Paul, but this guy will definitely ask, see his register, and then pass. That we already know. But the moment you want to make him understand, make him educated, and then you say, okay, his this security guard name, let's say Daniel. All of this building owner, all of the flat owners says they say, hey Daniel, a काम करो भाई, you have to protect, you know, maybe Maria. So you don't. You don't allow Maria to get into our building.
Okay.
So there's Maria. First, Paul comes. Hey, hi, Daniel. Daniel say, hi, how are you? I'm good. Are you Maria? Daniel will ask. Paul say, no, no, I'm Paul. All right, sir, you are allowed. Then this flow happens. Okay. Next time, Maria comes. Hey, hi, Daniel, how are you? Daniel say, I'm good, ma'am. How are you? I'm good. So, are you Maria? Yes, I am. Oh, sorry. You cannot go. You cannot go. You are disallowed. You understand? So
Yes.
that's how Daniel will work. And Daniel is nothing but NACL. Hmm. So we'll discuss this guy. And this NACL will protect entire VPC, entire subnets, not a specific EC2. Okay. So let's say now this is EC2, isn't it? So now if your team members say, hey, Abhay, we have identified that the IP is coming from this IP, huge loads, huge requests, and all of the servers are going down, etc. What to do? Then I can say, okay, no problem. I can protect all the traffic is coming from this 54.3.6.5. All traffic. Any traffic is coming from this guy by 54, I will block. So let's say if this is 54.3.6.5, any request is coming from that particular IP, okay, then it will block. Else, everybody is, all of the other traffic is allowed. You understand? But NACL is a stateless firewall. Security group is a stateful. So NACL is a stateless. Now, what is stateless? Any idea? No. So stateless means even Paul, if you go meet everything you do fantastic, the moment you will come out, again I will ask you who are you. So this inbound and outbound checks all the time. So if you add something in the inbound rule, you have to also add the same rule at the outbound rule so that it will allow to go outside the premises. Otherwise, something
Okay.
like that. You understand?
Yeah.
So this is the main difference with stateless firewall. This stateful and stateless is not a AWS term. It is a security industry term. Okay. But stateless firewall means it will inspect traffic at every single changes. Inbound, outbound, इसके अंदर भी क्या हो रहा है? Every single inspections at each and every stages it inspects. So that is something very powerful, stateless firewall about this NACL. And NACL protects the entire subnets. Make sense? The difference between security group and NACL, you understand now, Abhay?
Yes.
Good. Let's see. So you see NACL in the VPC. If you just type VPC, go to VPC. Which city you are away of which city you are based on? Which states? You are
Maharashtra only.
Maharashtra. Okay. If I go Maharashtra anytime, Mumbai, then definitely we can meet because we have office there. We usually go Delhi mainly, but Maharashtra also I go sometime.
But only 2 month, 1 or 2 day in Mumbai only.
Oh, okay. So then you stay where Pune or some other?
No, some other location.
Oh, okay. I'll ping you. At least I
Oh,
can tell you at least
uh,
1 people.
at least 12 hour need to go there.
Oh, 12 hours. So okay.
Yeah.
It is quite far away. Okay. No problem. So now let's see NACL. You see NACL right there, network access control list. Click on that. And let me create a NACL first. Okay. Create a NACL. Give it a name like the same batch 174 NACL. You want to map with VPC and create network access control list. Okay. So now here inbound and outbound rules. If I go to inbound rules, edit, add. So let's say I am going to add 100 rules. Okay. Same thing like security group, which type, everything. Let's say I want to block all the traffic for 54.5.6. That was a problem statement that we discussed. So we want to block all of the traffic from, let's say, this IP. Now, if I just go and change, save changes, what the catastrophic problem will be there? So let's say I'm done. I saved it. Is there any issue? Yes. The answer is of course, because I'm denying everything. Let's say there's no allow rules, allow statements not there, right? That means I block all traffic. There's no such another statement, another rules that where I mentioned, except this, everybody is allowed, except Maria, Paul, Debajit, Abhay, Shraddha, everybody is allowed. No, there's no rules. So that means I am blocking everybody. Not good. So I have to add another rule, and in next rule, probably 101 or 102, whatever, I can say all traffic is allowed. So except this guy, okay, except this one, now everybody is allowed. Now it is a good statement. Clear? Save it. So the moment you can see there's also called subnet associations. So I've just created the NACL, but I can choose which subnets will get impacted or affected. So is it only migration in the public subnet or private subnet or whole? You just simply go and save changes. I'm not doing that, but without that, your NACL will not work properly. So you have to also map that which subnets will get affected by this rule I have just created.
For outbound rules also need to do.
Yes, same thing that you have to do also outbound rule the same way. Correct. So this is a risky one. I mean, if you are 100% sure that you need NACL, then you go and create NACLs. Otherwise, let them in. Okay. But these are very good solutions for your company. Sometimes that, if you want to block certain IPs, or as I mentioned, like brute force or some kind of DOS attack, then NACL is the first thing because it's free. Security group is free. NACL is free, completely free. Okay, you don't need to pay anything. All right. So these are all about the firewall, the basic firewall that we have learned today. But still, we have a lot of time. So what is next? So after EC2 discussions, after security group, all of the things, now the next thing is definitely the storage, correct?
Yes.
Without storage, how your EC2 will work? No, right? You need some hard drive, some storage. So the next topic for today, which is Amazon Elastic Block Store. Amazon Elastic Block Store, or EBS, short form is EBS. It is nothing like hard drive, SSD or storage solution. Just like your laptop or desktop, we have a storage. For server, we also need storage. This is the storage, and this is the okay. AWS says this is the block storage. Name is block. Please remember. Yeah,
block storage.
block means hard drive solutions. Okay. So now, if you remember, very first day, I mean, not at least when we discussed the EC2 part, I showed you there's an option called the storage during the EC2 creation process. You remember?
Yes.
8 GB, 30 GB is a ton.
Yes.
So now we'll see in detail about how to create the storage for your EC2 and what are the different types of block storage also we need to know. So if I go back to EC2, there's a sections you can see like volumes. You see that elastic block store on left volumes. Click on the volumes, and from this option, you may create the block storage. Some of the block storage are already there because of the different servers are still running. I have to create the volume. So customers or students they ask, sir, मैं तो server बंद करके रखा हूँ. So I already stopped my server, but still there's a little billing is coming because of storage. Why? Because if you stop the server price is a pay-as-you-go model. Like if you stop the server, you don't need to pay for the server. However, the volumes, the storage, you cannot stop, you cannot start. It will run all the time. So please be careful. You have to remember that you have to pay for the storage all the time, even though you stop the server. You remember?
If we delete the server, then no need to.
If you delete the server, if the storage will be part of the server as a root, if those storage will also get deleted, then you don't need to pay for that. But if you attach an additional volume, additional storage to the server, I'll show you today. And if you delete the server, probably those storage is still there because these are not part of the launch process. These are separate volume that you attach, something separate hard drive you attach to your.
Okay.
So you need to pay for those additional storage. Okay. Go and create volume. And there are different types of volume. GP3, GP2, IO1, IO2, ये सब क्या है? We'll discuss now. So these are all from the different performance and price perspective. These are very important from solutions architect because you will become solutions architect or cloud engineer or consultant. So different volume types, what are the purpose of different volume types? When you choose these volume types, कब customer को क्या volume type देना है? For those things, you need to know different types of volumes. Okay. The first thing is GP3. But uske pehle, what is SSD? Abhay, any idea what is SSD? These are very common these days, right? In Amazon, people they buy SSD hard drive. You don't know? Okay. If I go to SSD, go to images. So these are all SSD hard drive. So SSD hard drive is a very, what should I say? It's a IC based. It's a completely chip based solutions, right? Integrated circuit. And it is very lightweight, very less energy consumed, very durable product. I mean, it's a longevity is very, very high, but expensive. These days, I mean, most of the hard drive manufacturers, they sell the SSD only. But when we started our day, long back, 20 years back, all of these very initial days, and I started career, still this storage is there in the market, which is called HDD,
ACT.
hard drive. You probably have seen this, right? Hard drive.
Yes. Yes.
So this is the traditional hard drive. Okay, थोड़ा कम expensive है, less expensive, and also but you know, compared to SSD, the performance is not that good. And you see, there's a magnetic platter, there's an arm. You know, continuously this arm reads and writes data from this magnetic platter, this disk, right? अगर हाथ से गिर जाए, if you you know, this, if this hard disk will fall from your hand, then you know,
Damage.
most probably the data will get corrupted. Okay, there's a lot of problem. It's a very heavy, all stuff, but still it is there in the market. And I mean, this is something called magnetic disk. Okay, so now we understand what is the difference between SSD and HDD. Very high level. This is not a computer science class or hardware class, but yeah, I think that is something we know. So AWS provides mostly SSD, though they have you know, magnetic hard drive, you know, options. But if you go for SSD, there is a first option called GP3. Correct. So GP3, then there's a site IOPS we'll discuss in the tabular form. These very important discussions. Okay, maybe the storage, but very important. So under the SSD category, AWS has come up with these two mainly general purpose volumes, GP3 and GP2. So if you go for the GP3, then these are all use cases. Like, you know, you can go for medium size single instance database. You can use this GP3 for boot volumes, root. You can use for development and test environment. You can use for low latency interactive applications, virtual. These are all the use cases where you can position this GP3 or GP2. The maximum volume size, it supports 16 TB. So one volume supports minimum 1 GB, maximum 16 TB. Now, what is IOPS? Any idea? No?
No.
Okay. IOPS means input output per second. That means how fast your data can be written into your hard drive, how fast the data can be read from your hard drive. मतलब ये ऐसा ये एक पेन ड्राइव लगा दो आपका लैपटॉप में या डेस्कटॉप में. Now you have experienced sometime today's new USB 3 or something, you know, it is very faster data copy, right? The experience wise, it will be much faster. Why? Because the input output per second is very high. For storage world, storage technology, IOPS plays a significant role. If your IOPS is very less, then that storage is not that efficient. If it's very high, this is efficient. So if you as an architect, you need to look, you need to ask your customers, sir, आपका IOPS का क्या requirement है? How much IOPS you need for your application to run? If customer say this much, then based on that, you can position a different type of you know, EBS volume. But this GP3 will give you up to 16,000 IOPS, which is a lot. Very good IOPS. Okay. Now, what is maximum throughput? You don't need to remember, by the way. Okay. Don't remember anything. Just look at, you know, just understand. Nobody will ask these questions. Only you may remember those use cases, but not in detail. But the throughput means IOPS is understand that input output per second, and throughput means in one request, how big data, how big chunk of the data can be read and write. मतलब input output हम लोग को समझ में आ गया, but एक साथ कितना data वो input write or read करेगा, it's a megabyte or it's a KB or those things, all the throughput एक साथ एक chunk में कितना करेगा. You understand? So that is something throughput. And otherwise, these are all okay, NVMe storage, etc. So these are the first use cases. So these are the use cases for GP3 and GP2. And for this category of SSD, these are very, very expensive. But if your customer, they want sub-millisecond latency, sustained IOPS performance are more than 64,000 IOPS or more than 1000 MB throughput, then you can position this type of SSD. And it will scale up to 64 TB for IO2, IO1 for 16 TB. And now you see how big, how much IOPS AWS, you know,
Yeah.
provide for the IO2, right? It's a very good high performance storage solutions. ठीक है?
Yes.
Okay. If I scroll down, then there's another hard drive. So now we know what is hard drive. We have seen in Google image. So hard drive is still there. They call ST1. So these are all an API name. So if you see there's a SSD, the GP3, GP2. These are all short code of the those particular services. Okay, ST1, SC1, something like that. These are all API name. But this hard drive, okay, this particular hard drive, those use cases are like big data, data warehouse, log processing. If you have this kind of workload, then you can safely position this hard drive. It's a very less expensive, storage. But you see, you don't get that much of IOPS, you don't get that much of throughput, isn't it? If you go for SC1, you don't get that much of IOPS and throughput because cold hard drive. What is cold hard drive? Any idea? It is not like ice, but
Yes.
cold. What do you mean by cold hard drive? Okay. Okay. No?
Something slow.
Huh? Slow.
Something slow. Slow.
You can say slow, but the main use cases are cold hard drive means this is required. These are the use cases where you need to store some infrequent data to store. Let's say you travel a lot, for an example, with your friends, and you take a lot of images at your mobile phone, right? We all do. We take a lot of photographs. But when you take those photographs, when you store the photographs, are we checking those photographs every single day? No, right?
No.
But we need to store somewhere in case in future, if I want to show the photograph to somebody, then I can have access. But it is not needed to store a hot tier. It can be stored somewhere in a less expensive storage device. So that means my data is there, but is not frequently accessed, isn't it? So if you have those kind of use cases where your customer, they have the data but not frequently using, infrequent use, then you can safely position this cold hard drive बहुत ही सस्ता है compared to those. Clear?
Yes.
We have 15 minutes and then we can wrap up. If I go back to these here. So now GP3, GP2, IO2, IO1 is सब है, ठीक है? So GP3 now, if I go for 10 GB, I would like to create a new volume called 10 GB. So now you see there's a IOPS. I can increase up to 16,000, something. But here's the thing. It is saying by default, GP3 gives you 3000 IOPS, which is good IOPS, right? But AWS saying, boss, you are going for 10 GB and you need 16,000 IOPS. That we don't provide. Oh, that means some of the limitations. Yeah, I mean, they are saying if you go for 16,000, then ना आपको ये बढ़ाना पड़ेगा. Because all business, right? AWS is a trade-off, right? So there's a little limitation you need to know. Like, for that matter, you have to go for 100 GB. Then only I can provide you this maximum 16,000 items. Throughput, you can also increase 1,000. But now many customers say, no, I need more than this 16,000. I have 100 GB, but I need more than 16,000. Then we know that there's IO2 or IO1 are waiting for us. Right? If you go for IO2, then you can go for even more than 16,000, let's say 20,000. If customer need 30,000, 40,000. But again, this is very expensive. So you need to think about like expense and the customer need. You have to balance. Correct. Sometimes customer they don't bother about expense. They need their service should run, the security, the high availability, the performance. Correct. Sometimes the customer is concerned both cost and solutions. मान लो अगर आपका solution बहुत तगड़ा है, you are giving a fantastic solutions, but your cost is so high, customer cannot afford. Do you think that your solution will fly? No, right?
No.
So you have to provide the optimized solutions. So now, if that is the use case, then you have to go for IO2, then otherwise GP3 or GP2. So let's say GP3 again. Let's say I'm going for 10 GB or 3,000 throughput. I can change. So now, if I go for HDD, then there's no IOPS. With IOPS, the data in. This is something called there's no IOPS. And that means you really cannot have the control to change the IOPS. So the options only you'll get whether you have to choose GP3 or IO1 or IO2. If you go for GP2 also, then you don't get any options to change IOPS. Whatever AWS gives, you have to take it.
Yes. Okay.
समझ में आ गया? So now customers say, no, I need 3,000 IOPS, man. I need 3,000 IOPS for 500 GB. Then they are saying, no, I cannot give you because if you choose GP2, then there's a 1:3 ratio. That means 500 multiplied by 3, you will get that much of IOPS. If you want to get 3,000, then you have to take 1 TB or 1,000 GB. Then only you get, because customer मेरे को जरूरत है ही नहीं, I don't need 1,000 GB. Because if you go for 1,000 GB, then you have to pay for that a lot of money, isn't it? But if customer says 3,000 IOPS with maybe 100 GB, then GP2 will only give you 300. To achieve that, you have to go for GP3. Then you can have more IOPS you can define. Make sense?
Yes.
Up to 3,003, yeah? Up to 3,000 tak, AWS doesn't charge anything for GP3. So now let me create a volume.
It will not require VPC.
Huh?
It not require VPC.
It's not
For
record.
required VPC for creating this.
No. So now my EBS volume is getting created. Blue means the storage has been created, but it has not yet attached to any server. So in use means this those storage are already attached to any of the servers that I have. But this blue means I have created this storage, but this server, this particular storage is not attached to any EC2. Okay. So for that matter, what I do, I will attach that particular storage to any EC2. Go to actions, then attach volume. Then you have to choose the server where you have to attach. Okay. These are all stop server, but you can choose any of the server. You have to choose the data volumes because that's the mount drive, because everything is Linux. I have the server. So in the Linux, you have to choose the random device name from AWS. You have to choose the root device name and then you have to attach the volume. So that means I've attached that particular server, that particular volume to a particular server. Now it is in use. Remember? I'll show you another use case, interesting use case. Okay, let me delete this server first, this storage first. Let me check. Give me a second. Okay. So let me create another volume. And I want to attach this particular volume to server green. Server green. So I'm going to launch this volume in availability zone 1B. Create the volume. Creating. So refresh. Now I am going to attach this volume to server green. I cannot see any servers, even green. Why?
This aged is different.
Hmm?
Aged is different. For same aged volume will be support one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is very important, Abhay. Your volume and EC2 must be in the same AZ or availability zone. Okay. So that
Yes,
is the limitation. Why this limitation? Because AWS is saying if your server is running in one data center and you are creating the storage in another data center, doesn't make any sense, man. Because there will be a lot of latency and performance issue, right? Your storage should be
yes,
very closer to your server, isn't it? So
yes,
that is the whole purpose of the this kind of storage. Like it will be very closer. It's a so in the same network. So that is the logic. What is availability zone? Yesterday you couldn't answer.
yes. This is the server in a specific region. In any specific region, multiple server will be installed. That is the ability zone.
Again, अब server कर रहे हैं आप. Availability zone means logical data centers. You need to remember this name.
Logical data center.
हाँ,
Okay.
पढ़ो ये जाके पढ़ो. बिकॉज अगर इफ यू कैनॉट आंसर देन आपको पहले इंटरव्यू से बाहर कर देगा. आई कैन टेल यू. So yesterday you failed to answer. Today again you again server कर रहे हैं. कल आप कुछ दूसरा कुछ बोल रहे थे. Availability zone is a data center यार. सर्वर कैसे हो गया? सर्वर तो EC2 है. करेक्ट.
Yes.
हाँ.
Understanding is clear, but words are wrong.
Hmm. So I'm saying everything because of for you only, right? For your betterment.
Yes, yes,
And I'm a kind of my job is to something say yes, something no. Good is good, bad is bad, right?
yes.
So. So आप थोड़ा पढ़ाई कम कर रहे हो. So I think you should go for the assignments is fantastic. You are doing fantastic job, but you have to also go through the recordings once. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm. So now what I'll do, I'll delete this volume and show me. Let me show you the instance green. The storage is already 8 GB. Okay, that is the root, right? Root means where the operating system is installed. So now your customer says, I need another 10 GB for this server. एक में operating system होगा, and in this 10 GB, I would like to store my data, right? That is industry follows, right? Even for your laptop, there's a one volume you use for the operating system, another volume you have to use for to store the data.
Store the data.
So it's the 8 GB volume. It is only for the root, where all of the root volume, or maybe you install operating system or applications. But this new volume your customer need to store data, and they need 10 GB additional volume. It can be 100, it can be 1 TB, it can be 16 TB, case to case basis. So how can I do that, right? So now, if I just go back to volumes, create volume, 10 GB, this time 1A, yes, create volume. Attach EC2 instance. Choose the server name called green. Choose the device. Attach volume. If I go back to instance, refresh the screen, go to storage. Now I can see the another 10 GB volume got 10 GB volume got added.
Yes.
Customer says no, मेरे को ना 9 GB चाहिए. Sorry, I forgot to tell that I actually need 8 GB or 9 GB, not 10 GB. Can you please reduce this volume? So if I just go back to volumes, select this 10 GB, actions, modify the volume. You can see there, modify the volume.
Yeah.
Go there, and I'm going to put 9. Ooh, what is saying?
It's not decreased.
The size of volume can only be increased, not decreased. In AWS, even the Azure, the volume size cannot be decreased, only increased. So this is very important point. You cannot decrease the EBS volume size. Okay. So you cannot do that. You can increase from 10 to 11. You can do. If I just go and modify, you'll see that after a few minutes, the 10 will become 11 already. But you cannot reduce the volume size. You remember?
Yes. It's directly reverted there also, or need to do again for action.
Which one?
11 GB directly increase on the server EC2.
Yes.
Okay.
So
No need
no,
to
that is a very good question. Tomorrow, next day, I'll show you. Even if you increase, even you increase the volume in the Linux server, you have to pass a command. Bye-bye. So that means, let's say if you attach 10 GB and then you have to increase to 12 GB or 15 GB or 100 GB, right? Then there's a command you have to pass, the Linux command, so that your 10 GB will be showing as a 11 GB. The volume already expanded, there's no problem. But in EC2, that increased volume will not show. That's the Linux command. I mean, it's not a AWS thing. It is any Linux people, or even for Windows for that matter. There are certain things you have to do, certain commands that I will show you next day. How can you additional volume you have increase kiye, so that get reflected over there. Okay? Right now, from the cloud perspective, it's very easy to increase the volume, right? If the on-premise environment, if you need right now 32 TB storage or 16 TB storage, there's no way, right? You have to go place for the order, and then you need to wait for some time. But in cloud, you can actually create, increase any number of storages, right? And your infrastructure will grow auto scale. So that's all for today. Okay. Next day we'll continue EBS, and next day we'll start discussing slowly the load balancing and auto scaling. Another super interesting class. And also from the next class, we'll start the productions use case every single day based on our topics. Okay, small production use cases. Though we are discussing every single day production use cases, but more discussions, something that we have. Now, assignments, I'll show you what assignments you have to do. If you go to the, sorry, if you go to the assignments,
I can say
hmm,
I have opened it and I say,
it
am
comes
I,
from next day, na, you have to take a good microphone because your voice is coming very, breaky. I don't hear in one time,
oh, okay, okay,
हाँ और थोड़ा पास आके बात करो. So this assignment 1, assignment 2 already you done, and then probably you can go for these assignment. You can start 3 A and B, point A and B. Okay,
okay,
because you don't know this ALB and all stuff, load balancer, but at least you can go for these 3 and A and B. All right, that's all for today.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.